What is going on, everyone out there in our Cats Chat Pod universe? We are so thankful to bring you our next week's episode on this wonderful Wednesday. Mark, happy to have your beautiful brother face on here with me.
I
And
appreciate that. It's good to survive another week and be back here on Wednesday for the show, man.
yes, I still have my cough drops. I've got a whole bag that's about halfway
Good deal.
gone.
That way, if you start, I tell you, man, allergies have been killer right now.
Yeah, I love this time of year with the leaves changing and falling and everything. But when they crumble up, man, it gets to my throat and I get congested. But we will keep pushing through and we'll play this episode injured. We're hurt. We're not injured. We're just hurt. Still we can still get through this.
All right.
But everyone, we know why you guys are here. You're not here to see us. You're here to see our special guests, and we're so happy to have them. And Mark, as always, I'll let you do that wonderful introduction because you're much better at a voice than I am. So go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, this young man just had himself a week defensively. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. He was the Bronco Nagurski National Defensive Player of the Week, and also the Jim Thorpe National Defensive Back of the Week. He's one of your DBs from the University of Kentucky, Mr. Maxwell Hairston. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
I bet that feels good having all those names like right at the beginning there, all those awards this week, man. You had a killer week this week.
I appreciate that. Yeah, honestly, I just feel very blessed right now. Feel very, happy and just thankful.
I just want to ask you real quick, before we get into really some of our questions, just this week alone has probably been kind of crazy for Kentucky with, the game day coming this week against Florida, all the media presentation and everything going on. Of course, with your big game of last week, has it been a little bit of a shock to you with all the interviews that's going on with you too?
It definitely has been, kind of just coming quick, but, I'm ready for it, and I'm just very thankful for it. This is all God's doing.
Awesome. Love hearing that too. Absolutely. Maxwell, I know they call you Mad Max, and I want to start off by asking, who came up with that nickname? Where did it come from? Is it movie inspired, or let's hear it?
So I actually got this nickname in Little League. One of my Little League coaches, his name was Coach Samaj. He used to call me Mad Max. And, I kind of just stuck with it because I have Mad Max, Maximilian, just a couple other names, but it was something about Mad Max that just stuck with me.
I got it. Okay. They used to call me Hollywood in Little League baseball because I wore these sunglasses, and my dad was the coach. And the very first play I had them on, the ball went between my legs at first base. My dad marched over to me, took the glasses off. I was Hollywood the rest of the year, and it wasn't good.
Hey,
so I'm glad your nickname stuck for a good reason.
It happens to the best of us.
I just wanted to ask you a little bit. You grew up in West Bloomfield, Michigan, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not the best geographically. That's right outside of Detroit, correct?
Yeah, it's right outside of Detroit, in the Metro Detroit area.
Okay, I was going to say I've been up there before because my sister-in-law lives in Davison, so we go up there some. It's between Flint and Detroit, so I was like, I've seen signs for that area. So
yeah, honestly, you probably heard, with her being in Davison, you probably heard about us being on the state championship.
Well, they probably have. I don't know.
It's a little friendly fire.
Yeah. I tell you what I'm glad about is having you right now in blue and white, man. I love it. I love that you're down here in Kentucky. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what went into your decision-making coming to Kentucky?
Honestly, I just felt like Kentucky welcomed me with open arms. I felt like I could get the most out of my opportunity on and off the field, academically as well. I feel like the school up here is very good. I feel like me and my mentors, my tutors, they're honest about school because that's really what matters first. And I feel like on the field, I have an opportunity, of a lifetime, really. I feel like I have great coaches. Coach Stoops is great, Coach White, Coach Collins. And I'm just excited to come here every day and work.
That's awesome, man.
If I always want to kind of ask this and see what the other side of the picture might have been. You picked Kentucky, thankfully. What some of the other teams that might have been like, oh, man, I could go here, or like I would have went there, but Stoops did this, What was that other team that really – because, let's be honest, anytime you get that girlfriend, there's that other girl that's like, oh, man, which one's my options here? Who didn't get picked?
Yeah, so really, I took my time with this decision, to come to Kentucky, and, just other school I was probably interested in was just U of M, but, I wanted to get out of Michigan. I wanted to kind of grow up and mature on my own, take on a different role. And I'm very happy that I chose Kentucky.
So we're glad you chose Kentucky too. I can tell you that. So let me ask you a question. Like, I know your first season you redshirted, correct? Your freshman year.
Yeah.
What's that like going through a red shirt? Because I've always wondered that with athletes, because you come out of high school, and you're playing all the time, and then you go to red shirt. Like, I know you're still practicing and things like that, but is it hard, like just being out that year?
Honestly, coming to college and redshirting, it kind of sets you back to reality because, it's faster, especially coming to the SEC. It's way faster. Guys are just bigger, guys are stronger, and I feel like I didn't look at my redshirt year as me not playing. I looked more at it as me, turning my body, improving my body, getting used to being out here, getting used to this fast pace, and just getting used to the playbook. Because, in high school, I feel like playbook really didn't matter as much. But in college, that's all that this is knowing what your opponent is doing. So I feel like I took that redshirt year to mature, to grow into the system. And I feel like I needed it for sure.
That's awesome. I always just wondered, from the player standpoint, what it was like. Because, we hear about players redshirting all the time. But I was like, I just wondered, that's what made me ask the question. I was like, I wonder where it puts you mentally and physically. Because I know it gives you time to work on your body, like you said.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it's, sometimes it can get hard because, everyone wants to play. Everyone, but you just gotta, I feel like that's where the maturity comes in of just knowing, like, you got to take things, at time. And I just feel like I put my trust in God, and his timing is always the right timing. So I was never in doubt.
Do you think it helped you see it more from a coach's perspective, being a red shirt? Because, you see the play call and understand what they're doing and seeing the players execute what's going on. Okay, this is why we maybe did this.
Yeah, like, being in the meetings, like a defensive unit meeting, seeing him, go over these installs, go over the plays and like what we do against certain formations, this and that. It made me realize, like, yeah, this is serious. It's harder than just looking at a piece of paper and knowing what you're doing. You have to actually go out there and like perform it. And I just feel like that takes time. So, I wasn't in a rush. I just trust the process.
Mad Max, I got to ask you a question. Well, of course, we've said that like 5 times. Obviously, we're interviewing you. We're asking you questions. Why do you call your game greedy?
Because I want the ball. And I feel like if me and the receiver is on an island, like it's either me or you. And like, I got to win. So I feel like being a corner, you have to be greedy because you also have to have a short memory as well. But you got to be eager. You got to want to go out there and work because guarding a receiver is not easy. Trying to stay on them when they're running full 100 miles per hour, it's not easy. So I just feel like you have to have a certain mindset to go out there and compete.
Well, with being greedy, let's go ahead and go to last week in the game against Vandy. Walk us through those 2 plays with your pick six, if you will.
The first one, we were in we was in the zone. I had the flats and we sent some pressure off the edge. So I knew that they was going to get there. I knew that the ball was going to have to come out quick because, they don't want to get sacked. So once I noticed that we sent 2 back there and I seen him spin out, I saw his eyes and I also seen the running back flare. So honestly, I feel like I saw what he was trying to do and I just trusted it. And, a good thing happened.
The rest is history. All right. And the second play?
The second play, we was in zone again. I was covering the flats and I was kind of just mirroring over what the 2 ran because my one, he ran vertical. So he just got me a reroute and I see him break to the flats. So I didn't want to break on it immediately, but I kind of wanted to just like choke the motor, see what they're trying to do. And the quarterback, he overthrew him. So at that point, I was looking at the ball the whole time. I watched it go right over his hand. I was like, oh yeah.
I bet your eyes got that big. As you saw
this one came fast, so I had to look it in. So make sure I had it before I started taking off. And then number 20, he saved me. Had a great block on the quarterback, which freed me up to get in the end zone.
I don't think people realize how much DBs have to work and how much you have to be aware at all times of like you were saying, you're trying to key in on not only the receivers in your area in a zone, but you're also keying in on that quarterback as well. Trying to watch his eyes and where his do you guys just watch game film constantly trying to pick apart quarterbacks and different
Yeah,
players?
we see what they like to do out of certain formations. So like we see what routes comes out of certain formations, the splits, like if they're condensed, if they're pinch or not. And, based off of that, it's probably 2-3 things that, the offense would do out of that. But it's just expecting, knowing what to expect. If they give me this, I'm expecting this and that. Just that type of deal. I feel like when you watch enough film to be able to do that, it makes you play faster. It allows you to play faster because you're confident in what you see.
How do you all build the trust? Because, even what you're talking about, your man, you're regarding the flats in the zone to know that your backup has the vertical route. How do you all work on that communication, the nonverbal communications of the trust that you build there?
Just practice and, practicing the plays, talking about it, going over it, practicing it, and then going watching it right after.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches putting their comments on there so you see what mistakes you made or if you did it good or not. And just, like I said, being able to see stuff in the game and have the confidence to trust what you see. And just at that point, it's just playing fast.
Now, I know you played a little wide receiver in high school as well, correct?
Yes, sir. In high school,
coach and been like, hey, throw me on the offensive side.
Hey, that option is always on the table. If they want me to go out there and run a fly or a post, I would definitely love to do that. But, playing in high school, it was more so felt like playing on my island in high school. They didn't really try as much my senior year. So I wanted to, get involved. I wanted to help the team. So I went on the offense side of the ball, and I just feel like I used my speed.
Yeah.
Every time we have
go ahead, Mike.
someone that plays defense on the team, we had Trevin Wallace on last time, and he's like, Mark asked him then about running back. He's like, man, I kind of put a little bug in the air about, I would like one, see if I still got it. Defense loves playing defense, but to get that ball one more time, the faces always light up every time.
Well, I mean, this man's scoring TDs on defense. He don't have to play offense.
He don't need to play offense. But
I played best of both worlds doing it like that.
Which catch was harder? Let me ask you that. Which catch was harder? Because, I know one was right to you, and sometimes those could be the hardest ones because you got like all day to think about it.
Yeah, I feel like that one was – the second was probably the tougher one because, one, the ball was coming quick. Like, he put some zip on that ball. And then it bounced off my chest at first. I just had to look it in. I was not letting that ball go.
I tell you what, they went that first one. I was actually, I think, listening to that one on the radio because, I'm a teacher by day, but I DJ on the weekend. So I was going somewhere.
Okay.
And I don't even remember but I remember the announcer just went crazy. He's like, okay, the pass is up. It's picked up, Like, do you feel that energy on the field, like during the game when the crowd just erupts, like, and you take off?
Yeah, honestly, when I caught the ball and realized I had it, I was like, oh yeah. And then when I scored and heard everyone go crazy, and I spotted my parents, it was just a huge confidence boost. It just made me want to keep having a good game. It just made me want to keep going out there with my teammates and just having fun. Like, that game just felt like fun. When we're flying around, we all smiling, just having a great time out there for real.
And I'll be honest, I think that's one thing that's really helped the defense. Like, you're all speed on defense this year, man. It's phenomenal. Like, you guys are just quick. I think, like you were talking about the pass rushers getting to the ball fast, like Trevin and different guys coming, shooting out of those gaps. It really helps you guys in the DB position, correct?
Yeah, and another thing about the speed, it's just when we practice together, we're all telling each other, like, let's practice fast, let's go fast. Because no walking on the field, just stuff like that, like little discipline stuff like that, it goes a long way. And we feel like, when we out there running, having fun, we playing with our brother. If we make a mistake, we know our brother's going to be right there to clean it up. So it's just going out there and playing with confidence, not even having to think.
And I love the fact to hear you say that because they say you play like you practice. So if you're practicing like that, and it's definitely showing. And that kind of leads us up to like this game coming up with Florida. This is a big game. Yeah, I know you guys are prepared, and I know you guys got to be excited at the same time.
Definitely, practice. They tell us, our coaches tell us all the time. You practice how you play. Practice good habits, just stuff like that. I feel like it really does go a long way, and we keeping those habits going, just being consistent is the hard part. And, that's what we try to work on every day.
What has been Stoops' message all week been this week preparing for Florida?
just staying focused, not getting distracted, dialing in on your job and just playing fast.
Because I want to ask more, but I know there's no way that we can get into like playbook discussion or anything like that. So I'm trying to keeping it as broad as I can there.
Yeah.
We are coming up on 15 minutes. You got a few more minutes with us. Can we ask you a few more questions before we get into the fourth quarter questions, or you need to get on into that?
We can do one more question.
Okay. Mark, you got one more anything?
No, go ahead, man. I feel like I've hogged most of your time.
Well, I'll just ask this then, before we get into those quick questions. As for you against Florida, because, a little bit of a run-heavy offense, running usually 26, 27 plays a game, passing about 20 to 25 passes. Are we more focused on zone, or are you matching up? Like, what's at least the defensive backs' mindsets going into this game?
My mindset and, the group's mindset going into the game is just have our big boy pads on, be ready to come down, and just guard our man when we're not tackling. So, just having the mindset of being ready for anything.
Okay. And one more pick six, right? I mean, we got to have one more, right?
Hey, praying for that every night.
Oh, good. All right. Mark, jump in with any question that may pop into your head, but I've got a few here. All right. Here we go. First one. What is your go-to song that you sing? Because we know you're a singer.
Yeah, I heard you sing a little bit.
I might have did a choir or two in high school, a little something, but
we did too.
What I like listening, pregame is it's a song by he's a rapper. He's from Michigan. His name is Real the Young OG. He kind of turns me up before the game.
Okay, but what about you singing? What's that song like? If you got to sing, what's your go-to song to sing?
To sing?
Like when you by yourself, nobody else is around.
In sync, bye, bye, bye. What is it?
I might throw on some Taylor Swift or whatever.
Oh,
okay. All right. What's this one? What's your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero, the Hawk.
The Hawk. Okay, yeah. I've never heard that one before. Favorite food?
Favorite food is, I'd say it's either seafood or some pasta.
Okay. What's your favorite pregame food?
Pregame? I love everything that they give us pregame, honestly. I like the pasta, I like the broccoli. I get the steak. Yeah, we eat pretty good.
Eat good. Okay. What's your superstition pregame?
I just got to make sure I got everything taped. Everything is in the right spot. Don't want to mess up no pregame because I want to do what I did last week. I want to do the same this week.
So everything that you like, what you wear underneath your gear.
Like, yeah, just keeping everything organized.
Okay. All right. After football, what's your dream job or career?
It's to be a businessman.
What kind of business? Just entrepreneur or?
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, kind of doing what my dad does. I want to come to work in the suit every day, sit in a nice office behind a computer,
Awesome. Okay.
Type like a smart person, all that.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a business degree. You see how well I look here. So,
hey man, you enjoy yourself. It's all good.
I am enjoying myself.
We do enjoy this. I know that. We have fun with this.
Yeah. You got any questions, Mark?
No, I'm good, man.
Well, I'm going to ask one because I've asked everyone this. Hunting or fishing?
Ooh, I say fishing.
Fishing? Okay.
And after my own heart right there.
That's been what everybody says so far. All right. Well, I think that's it for us tonight then, man. Appreciate it, man. Congratulations on a historic game with the 2 interceptions that's never been done at Kentucky. All the labels that you got for this week, player of this week, defensive back of this week. I couldn't keep up with them. It's just like every hour something new happened for you. So congratulations on that, and thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, and I appreciate y'all for having me on here. I had a good time.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to be rooting you on this weekend. We need some more interceptions. We need it coming.
Yeah. If you want to give a shout out, where can people find you on Instagram or X or whatever? Go ahead and give that if you want to, where they can your hashtag or whatnot.
Yeah, my username on Instagram and X now is it's the same. It's mhairston22.
Hairston22. All right, guys, go out there and give him a follow, and let's get him built up so those NILs can come in for everybody, right?
Yeah.
All right, Maxwell, thank you so much for joining us, man. You have a good one.
God bless, buddy.
All right, guys, we are back. We had to do a pre-recording on that, and of course, we have another face with us as we're here as well, as you guys can see. we're thankful for to our opportunity to be able to do these recordings. I'm sorry, still got the cough. Sometimes where they are student athletes, we just have to do them a little bit earlier, it seems like, on there. So thankful we were able to get Maxwell, Mad Max, out, do that recording. Really cool dude. Sorry, Jared, Robbie, even I think Johnny on some of the comments. We couldn't get those in there. Of course, Jared, now I see your ranch and blue cheese. I got to remember to ask that. That goes way back to my baseball podcast as well. But real quick, as you guys may know who Eddie is here, Eddie Creech is a long-time Cumberland Redskin, a phenomenon from the football gridiron field there is. Coach Eddie, how many years did you coach at Harlan County?
Since the inception of the school up to 2020, and then head coach for 6 years.
Okay, so a longevity of career of football, just the knowledge of it. There's a whole track record that we could go out there and kind of tell you all, but Eddie knows football. Let's just leave it at that, okay? Let's see here. Mark, before we get going, I'm bringing in this comment. Let's see here. Where'd it go?
He's still talking about that card. I
Yeah.
honestly keep forgetting to give it to you. I have. I mean, we
Jared,
only see each other at church. I'm not carrying a baseball card to church, man.
He should. It's Ellie De La Cruz.
Hey, I tell you what, we're getting some people on here. They're excited to see the man, the myth, the legend, Eddie Creech on here.
Oh, Ed. Big Ed. Look at all these comments coming for the legend here. And then we got Johnny.
I know you're going to remember this one, Mr. Johnny Lee Turner.
Oh, yeah. Life's different.
We are glad to have you on here, Eddie. I appreciate you joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
What's up, Rolex?
Eddie's getting all kinds of comments.
Does that make – we can't go there? Okay, gotcha.
No, that's
we all know that.
No.
10-4.
Let's get to football.
There's so many stories. Of course, Eddie Creech and I, we went to high school back in the, 2000s and whatever you want to say with those numbers afterwards. We don't want to really say our age on here, but, for basketball, watching him as a quarterback, doing everything he did, create plays from everything, going on to coach, listening to him talk a little bit about how he's grown watching some of these other coaches. I used to talk to him a little bit about going to these coaches, just talking about how they prepare for sports and stuff. It's like, wow, okay, Ed's really got this together, how he's playmaking and stuff. I used to talk to him, it's Panorama, what are you guys going to be doing? It's like, man, I'll never forget the time that I can't remember what was going on, but he was talking to me about setting up a play in the opening game for a play that he used 2 years later against the same team in one of the playoffs. And he's like, the chess game that I'm learning so much. So, we wanted to bring Eddie on here because, to us, this Florida game, Kentucky game could possibly end up being a big chess match and get kind of a person who knows a little bit about football than me and Mark in here to break it down a little bit and kind of just talk some sports with us. So, Eddie, hopefully I didn't put too much pressure on there with you on that, but we're
not at all
on it. Not at all. So, with that being said, let me pull up my phone. Some of the stats, man, this team or this matchup, Kentucky versus Florida, as far as stat-wise, they are pretty much the same team, really.
Yeah, you look at it on paper, it looks very similar. Like you look at the quarterback. Now, I do notice one thing. They've not had nearly as many passing TDs as I would have expected. Only 4 through the air, 1 interception. So I expected Mertz would probably have a few more than that, but it seems like they're pretty even kill, though, when it comes to running and passing.
Well, I had it totally loaded 2 hours ago. Now it won't load. But it looked like, as far as Florida, they're usually running close to 26 times a game, flirting with the above 20%, 20 times. I'll say that. And I'm passing a little over 20 as well. They're more heavy in the run game. Mertz pretty accurate on the passing. I'd say 67 around percentage. I'm just guessing because my phone is not loaded up. So with some of these stats, Eddie, what are you thinking, or what are you expecting Kentucky to be doing with all this? There we go. Now it's pulling up here.
He's actually got a 78.
I was sport.
Go
I was
ahead, Eddie.
fortunate enough to go down and watch Kentucky live against Akron. And in the fourth quarter, I got to move me and my son and his buddy down real close where we was behind Kentucky's bench. And I was thoroughly impressed with Kentucky's defense. I really was. I think we only give up 3 points that game. And I know we had some spots against Vanderbilt to where we was like, and I think a lot of that's just growing as a team and maturing. I don't think that's really a direct reflection of our defense. I think we got up big and maybe let our guard down a little bit. Going into the Florida game, I have a whole lot more confidence in our defense keeping us in the game at this point than I do maybe the offense outscoring Florida. I think it's going to be one of those games to where if we do pull out the win, we're going to be talking about how stout our defense played. And I may be wrong. I just don't see us coming out, and it's nothing against our offense at this point. But I just ain't sure that we're going to light the scoreboard up and score in the 40s or 50s. I think it's going to be have to be a defensive win for us.
I would agree with that. I've said it many times. I said I feel like our defense is the strong point of this Kentucky football team. In the interview we were talking with Maxwell just about the speed they have on defense. It's something that can really throw teams off when you have those inside linebackers with that speed that can shoot those gaps, put a little pressure on the quarterback. And I'm anxious to see how they come at the quarterback. You know what I mean? How much pressure are we going to throw at Mertz? Are we going to try to keep him off balance? Because as far as I know, he does run the ball some as well, right? He's a scrambling quarterback. I've not got to watch him live yet.
He's only rushed 23 times, average of negative 1 yard.
He's not as okay.
His longest run has been 12 yards. But here's a question for you, Eddie. I guess Jared doesn't trust us anymore since we talked about how well you know football. He's directing it to you. Do you think, that Kentucky will come out hard-nosed because it's Florida instead of a mentality against EKU or something like that?
Well, I'm sure if you ask Stoops or any of the coaches, the correct coach's answer would be we approach every game the same way and we're going in with the same mentality, and a solid veteran team is going to approach every play. I get it and I understand it, and I know that's every coach's aim. But speaking as a former player, not in the SEC, but in general on the team, if we were playing a team, say in high school, that you pretty much knew it was going to be a running clock versus like a arch rival, even though whatever was being preached to us by the coaches and whatever we tried to psych ourselves out for, I would venture to say that absolutely they're going to be a little bit more hype for Florida and a little bit more nose to the grindstone as far as their preparation and just attention to detail of everything that Florida does. And that's just the nature of the beast. I don't think there's anybody. I don't think even if some of Bill Belichick's players ain't always exactly focused like they should be or how coaches would want them to be. So I would say absolutely Kentucky's going to take it to another level for Florida.
Yeah, and even looking at some of the stats as far as, Mark, what you're talking about, Mertz or whatnot, Etienne, of course, his brother plays for Jacksonville. I mean, he's attempted 49 times. He's averaging 6.7 yards per carry with 329 yards and 2 touchdowns. His longest run has been 62 for the year. Obviously, I haven't done my research on this. It's straight from SEC.com. Ain't going to take no credit. But they're very run heavy. Even Johnson Jr. has 46 attempts as their number 2 guy. So they are definitely run first. Mertz has had 108 passes to Leary's 123, so even we pass more. Kentucky in the times past has been a very run-heavy team. I would even say that Florida is even more run-heavy. The only reason why I'm saying this, where you were alluding to earlier, is the pressure we're going to put on Mertz. I think we'll put pressure, but I think we'll only put that pressure when we have to, like when we know they're going to be passing. I don't think we're going to try to slip up and make our defense try to predict a pass when it might not happen and leave ourselves a little more vulnerable. And Eddie, you may correct me if I'm wrong on this or disagree with me, but I think we'll probably load the box up with as many people as we can and dare them really to make us back out of that and maybe play more of a zone defense there instead of blitzing anyone and make them pretty much what I feel like what's kind of been our fault in the past few games is we've had a lot of 3rd and longs, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9s, and stuff like that, where we have to pass. And I think if we can stop the run early on them and make them pass, then those blitzes from Wallace on the inside coming at him, weak side as well, that's when I think those pressures come, and hopefully we'll get an interception or two. I mean, you agree with me, or you think I'm way out left field on that?
No, you bring up some solid points. Here's what I would say. In my lifetime, being a lifetime
You see that
UK,
that's a home run right there, wasn't it?
being a lifetime UK fan, and I've lived with them, I've died with them. We've never had consistency on the defensive side of the ball, and I really feel like Stoops has got to a level to where not only are we solid defensively, we're deep defensively. We've got playmakers at all 3 levels. You know, we've had years where we had solid linebackers or a good corner or 2 or maybe 1 defensive lineman. Like when I went down there and watched them, I know it was against Akron, but I've been in that stadium all my life, and I feel like I know what I'm looking at. That UK defense, I think that they can come out just their base defense and just see early, maybe we don't have to load the box. Maybe we don't have to put an extra defender down in there. And I know a lot of defensive coordinators, especially early, will they have a plan B just in case they have a hard time in the run game? Yes, but I think Kentucky can actually line up in their base defense, and we match up great with Florida. I mean, I really do. I don't think that we will have to cheat, if you will, and bring a safety down in the box or have to blitz. I'm anxious to see if we just play straight base defense across the board. I still like our chances. I really like I really like our defense.
Let me ask you a few things, if you don't care, on the offensive side of this Kentucky team, because casual fans, and we all fall into that casual fan sometimes when we watch the games, because Kentucky, I feel like as a whole, people have been down on them this year. Even though we're 4-0, some of our stats and what we are, I mean, we're only like one of 3 or 4 teams that are undefeated in the SEC. I think it's us, Missouri, and Georgia. And, we're not even ranked. Florida has lost the game, but they did upset Tennessee. They're ranked 22nd. And what I'm saying on this is, you look at Leary's stats, he's 73 of 123, and this is of the whole year, only averaging 8 yards a pass on a passive yardage for barely over 1,000 yards, 9 TDs, and 5 interceptions. Those to me aren't numbers that stick out great, but he's 2 years away from, or a year basically removed from playing, and this team is still kind of gelling together a little bit. What I guess I'm asking you is, do you think we kind of are grading or judging this team a little unfair because some of the plays are just mishaps on big plays, but yet as a whole we're still playing good? It's just we have those bad plays in crucial time.
I'm going to answer this as an entire program and not as an offense, because my personal opinion, it's just my opinion, is any sport at any level, male, female, from Pee Wee all the way up to NFL, if you want to know the state of the program, then you look at nothing else but the expectation level. 20 years ago, if we start 4-0, we're automatically deeming this as one of the best UK teams we've ever seen. And Ray Davis is the greatest running back that's ever played at UK. And we're not even putting him in the top 2 or 3 in the past 5 years. Wow. So I think our expectation level has went so high as a UK fan base. Instead of getting mad at all the Facebook bashers, I actually take it in now and say, this is a great sign. We're 4-0, and I mean, Ray Davis is having a huge year. The defense is having a huge year, and we're still unhappy. So instead of getting mad at that, I'm kind of like, that's the state of the program. Like, we've reached a level now that I'm not used to being at. When I was a young kid, we started 4-0. I was like, this is the greatest UK team I've ever seen. But to bounce back to the offense, we do have to keep in mind, I think you alluded to it, Leary was hurt last year.
Yep. Okay,
so at any level, you're coming back off an injury, it's going to take some time. Yeah, and what I'm hanging my hat on in this whole thing is Liam Cohen. The whole thing. That's what I'm hanging my hat on, is that he's one of the best, if not the best, offensive coordinators I've seen in my life at UK. And I think he's also slick enough and smart enough to know the games that he can show some things and some games he's not going to show some things and still get away with it. I go back to that Georgia game a few years ago when we really thought we were going to go into Georgia and win, and he was pulling plays out of his butt, just random stuff, but it was working. I think going into SEC play, I know Vandy is still SEC play, but some of the stiffer opponents, I think we're going to see a little bit of different play calling. Leary's he's still finding himself. And see, that's what's great. We're 4-0, and our offense at times looks like it doesn't have an identity. They put up a graphic during the Vanderbilt game that was shocking to me. I've felt like for years Stoops at times has handcuffed his OC into we're ground and pound, we're going to play good defense, we're not going to do anything to beat ourselves. And our percentage of plays in passing is the highest it's ever been. So I think he got Liam back, and he's just saying, I'm turning him loose. So I think Coleman's just kind of experimenting around, seeing what works, what don't work. So at times it makes us look out of rhythm. And I know that's a big, huge, long answer, but I think it just goes back to expectation level is at a different level. And I think we all need to trust in our OC. He has a dandy quarterback. He has a dandy running back. I think the one unit on the team that is a little iffy at times is the O-line, which you don't want that to be the one unit. But I do think that we're creative enough in our formations and some of our play calling that we can kind of cover that up at times.
We talked about the O-line taking a hit early on with the transfer from Ohio State getting injured before the season even started, and then you had Horsey went down in the first game. So it's one of those things. I think once Horsey gets back, it may help some. But I tell you a stat that blew me away when I saw it. Now, of course, this is only taking into account the passing side of things. But if you go back and you look, Will Levis in his first 3 games at Kentucky in 2021 was 51 of 79 for 800 pass yards, 7 TDs, and 4 interceptions. Will Levis in 2022, he was 61 of 91, 882 pass yards, 6 TDs, and 4 interceptions. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying negative things, like I said, about Leary. Leary, in his first 3 games, is 58 of 94, 855 pass yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So he's got 1 more touchdown and 1 less interception than Levis had passing. Now, let's just be honest. Levis probably was a little more fleet of foot if you want to break it down. He could take off out of the pocket probably a little better than Leary. But while I hear a lot of people talking about the pass completion percentage, but I see a lot of drop passes too. I mean, I've seen passes hit our receivers in the hands and they drop. And I'm not saying anything bad. Everybody has, mistakes here and there. But I feel like the more Leary is playing, the better he's getting. Like you said, coming back from this injury, I feel like as this year goes on, I think you're going to see him keep progressing, getting better and better and better. And you all were talking earlier, about the whole idea of play into your competition. Florida beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago, and then they had Charlotte, I think it was, came in this weekend and only beat them 22-7. Had a tough time scoring against them. So I'm anxious for this game, man. I'm pumped about it. And Robbie brought up a good point here. He was talking about the Stoops era. Said that sorry, Michael, you want to bring that up?
I got you. Yeah.
He was talking about how, all we hear is this team's going to be great. And then they always win just enough to be in the Music City Bowl. And he said, no hate, just speaking from what I've seen. Is this team actually different, or are we getting our hopes up for another average season? Well, this is one of those situations where I feel like our defense is probably better than it's been in a long time. Like we were just talking about, I feel like our defense, like you said, is deep. I think we're going to have to see how this offense pans out. I think we're going to beat teams with our defense when we beat them. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think that's going to be the formula. Like I said, I don't think we're going to win many shootouts this year. And I don't like our chances if the opposing team's scoring in the lower 30s or higher. And the one thing I would say is I don't want to be on both sides of the fence, but he brings up a great point. But we're in the greatest football conference in the nation. I think there's years that if we're in the Big Ten, honestly, or if we're in the ACC or we're in the Big 12, the 2018 Kentucky team, you put them in any other conference, then we might be a top 2 or 3 team. So it's not that it's the same old Kentucky football. It's that we're in a recruiting race with Georgia, Alabama, LSU, on down the line. So I would love to go 12-0. I would love to be an SEC championship. And should we strive for that? Yeah. But a 9 to 10 win season, year in, year out in the SEC, we can deem it the same old Kentucky team, but what is your definition of great? We say, and I'm not going against what Robbie said, but he said every year we're talking about how they're going to be great, and they end up just doing enough to make it to the Music City Bowl. But if you're winning 8 or 9 games with an SEC schedule, it's just going to be tough. We're in the hardest, and we're getting ready to take in Texas and Oklahoma. It's just like this thing's only going to get tougher,
And, I just want to add to that, too. The Music City Bowl, like for a while there, it seemed like that, or the Outback Bowl. But sometimes it's not so much that we're going to the same bowl, it's that location of the bowl that I think brings us to. Because there was one time we played Music City Bowl and we just had won 6 games. And it's like, oh, okay, hey, we won, 6 games. We made it to the Music City Bowl. There was a year I think we won 8 games when we played Music City Bowl. I'm like, is there not a level that we get over to? But it's almost a location where, it's Nashville. It's close enough to Kentucky to bring those people there, and it's the surrounding area. So I don't think it's so much that we're playing that same low-level bowl. It's just it's a location of what we can travel with our fans to go with as well. But, yeah, I'm totally with you too. And also other teams that we're competing with as far as recruiting is Ohio State and Michigan. And, kind of shout out here too. We're in talks with getting the twins from Corbin to come on the show next week. Pretty sure we'll be getting that. They flipped from Michigan to come to Kentucky. And, when you're stealing people from Ohio State, which Jagger Burton, who was so close to committing to Ohio State, that came to Kentucky instead. The twins that now are coming to Kentucky. It's hard for Kentucky, if it's not a Kentucky bred athlete, to compete with some of these, because geographically right down there is Georgia, where a lot of athletes come from high school that are playing, where you have Georgia, you've got LSU, Florida, you've got even Tennessee and Alabama. That's all right at their front steps that are recruiting them. If Kentucky can steal a few of those, that's great. So like if you get a 4-star that comes from down south like that to Kentucky, to me we're lucky that we're able to do it. And I'm not taking anything from our coaching, because I think our recruiting has been phenomenal. But to be able to steal players from that area is great. It speaks highly of our organization where we're at, I guess. I don't want to say lucky. That sounds like, oh, we lucked up on that. So it just speaks highly of Merrill, Coach Merrill, and what all he's doing, and Stoops where he has our program. And of course, if you hear of a person or a student is up in Ohio, they're more than likely going to Ohio State. Well, we've been stealing some in the past 5 years from Ohio as well. So Kentucky, Mark, you and I preseason, before the season started, which is preseason, I said 9 wins. And there's some reporters out there, SEC Network had us at 6 wins, and I thought that was like disrespectful. If our offense can actually put a whole game together, I truly think this team could be scary, because this defense by itself, in my opinion, will be top 10 nation defensively by the end of the year. As far as what we're going to be giving up, the strength of schedule, who we play, I think we have an opportunity in defense. And Stoops has had top 10 defense before in the past. It's just really, it's going to all come down to is our offense can put in plays together, strings of plays, series. There we go. Couldn't think of the word. Series enough to put those points on the board when we have to have those. Put those plays together. And going to kind of what this whole conversation was, Leary, I think, yes, he makes some long decisions, let me say it that way, because I think that's what gets him in trouble. He can't check down sometimes, and he holds the ball a little bit too long. That's where the indecisive comes in. But he makes some pretty plays. The way he dropped down on some of the passes that he does in the end zone a few times, I don't see Levis doing that, and I'm not taking anything from Levis. Levis was, hey, I'm going to create on my feet, and I'm going to throw someone a dart. But as far as the lob pass, I didn't see it too much. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. I feel like Leary does a better – or Levis – I'm sorry, yeah, Leary does a better job of the pinpoint passing on that. So if he can get his confidence, get a few more games into him, come into this Florida game, if he goes and has a 16 and 21 for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, that's a great game against Florida, in my opinion.
And I think just having those live game scenarios, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, let's be honest, even if you practice hard, the defense in practice isn't allowed to go after the quarterback. You know what I mean?
They got that.
And then when you're playing in the SEC, you've got 300-pound men running at you trying to hurt you. So he's getting his legs back, man. He's getting back out after that injury. Like I said, I believe you're going to see him get better as the season progresses. I mean, maybe it's wishful thinking, maybe it's me just hoping, but like you said, if we start putting together a few better series on offense, I believe this team can be scary good.
I think for us to be successful, it's going to mirror a lot of some of Stoops' older teams. Like if we can get to the point where we're averaging mid-20s on offense, and our defense stays healthy, and in SEC we hold teams to 18, 20 points a game, that's going to be our recipe. I know I've said that about 3 times. I just don't see us this year stepping on the field with some of the tougher teams in SEC and winning 45-41 or I don't think that we're going to win a lot of 7-6 games. So if we can kind of keep them in the teens and us scoring the mid-20s, I think that's going to be the recipe. And the sad thing about it, not sad's not the right word. The crazy thing about this schedule is I could see us winning as low as 6 games too. I'm not saying we're going to, but there's so many games on the schedule right now that you really can't look at and say, we're automatically going to win that. But the good side of that on the flip is even Alabama. And I know that sounds crazy. And Georgia showed, for a little bit with South Carolina, maybe there's not really a game on the schedule I look at and I go, we can't win that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you feel that way, that's where you get the term 50-50. It's a 50-50 game. Now, the Georgia game obviously is not a 50-50 game realistically. It's probably a 70-30, 80-20. But the rest of the games, you're sitting there going, we could win that game. So it's going to come down to Stoops' formula for winning, which is good, solid defense. And offense, if you can give us some points, great, but you cannot set us up with turnovers. I mean, you can't make bonehead plays. Stoops is one of the best I've ever seen at getting a team to play fundamentally sound mentally. Stay away from the crazy mistakes. And I think right now that's what's kind of getting to us. We're not used to seeing that, and I think as the season goes on, we eliminate some of those mental errors and little minor stuff to where we're just solid. We're not going to beat ourselves. And then if the other team's just better, we lose. But, I'm really interested. I think the Florida game is the first game that I feel like we're going to get any measurement. I don't feel like we've had a game yet to truly gauge what we're really looking at, because the Vanderbilt game was 2 possessions away from being just completely ugly for them. They made a little rally and all that. And then you look at the EKU game. We've really not had a game to measure. So I'm as intrigued as you all are to see what do we really have. I think the Florida game is going to be a really good measuring stick for us.
And I almost feel like every game from here on out is going to be a measuring stick for us. Like the Vandy game, I told Mark, I was like, this really going to set the tone where we're going to be at. And then my children were having a birthday party, so I didn't get to catch the first quarter of it. And my dad hollers at me, it's 21-0. He's like, oh my goodness, Vandy is up. And he goes, no, like Kentucky's up. I said, I guarantee the defense has scored once. He's like, no, they scored twice. I'm like, okay, so never mind. This is not a test. And of course, like you said earlier, I think we just got up. We had a mental lapse on there, made it more of a game than what it really should have been. And so that one I don't really count. Now we move to Florida, the Florida game, who preseason I think everyone thought was going to be a down team, but after beating C, okay, now this is a gut check game. Like, are we going to match what they can be, or are they going to be that? I thought it was Chattanooga, but it was a Charlotte team that they played. What team are we going to get from Florida? And so, can we take a punch and give a punch and keep going with it? So I think from here on out, it's basically every game is going to be like, okay, now let's see what kind of men we really have wearing the blue and white on. It's going to be a fun year, I think. If we beat Florida, man, we're going to go into the next game and say, hey, let's see what we got now. And I think all the games from here on out, like you said, and I'm repeating you, and I apologize, but every game from here on out is really winnable, except for maybe that Georgia game. But they're also really losable at the same time if we have our mental mistakes. And that's why it's scary, because we've had those mental mistakes.
Well, I mean, if you look down our schedule, our next game, Florida's ranked 22nd right now.
Yep.
After that game, we have number 1 Georgia. Then we have number 23 Missouri. Then we have number 21 Tennessee. Then Mississippi State, number 12 Alabama, South Carolina, and a Louisville team that's 4-0 right now as well. That's putting up big points. There's not an easy game left. You're going to have to come out and you're just going to have to play football. But that's why you play the game too, man. We could sit and we could talk about games all day. We could talk about strategies. The games are made to be played until you get on that field. And I'm kind of like Eddie here. You got to cut down on the mental mistakes. Not get flags and unnecessary situations. And the big thing is, I believe you really got to be careful and put together sustained drives, if that makes sense. Even if you don't come away with points, you got to give your defense time to breathe. If you're having the defense out there playing a heck of a game and you come out and you're 3 and out and the defense is right back out there, you're putting them in bad situations, regardless of field position. So I believe that's going to be the key against Florida. Just some sustained drives, give our defense some breaks, and then let them kind of do their thing.
Yeah, the one difference I see in this Kentucky offense versus years past is we could go on these big, just basically rushing only drives to where we were so dominant up front that we could do that. We are going to have some big time 30, 40, 50, 60-yard plays. 1 or 2, they call them explosive plays, whatever you want to call them. I just don't see up front us being that unit right now to where we just line up. We're going to say 12 plays later, we're going 7, 6, 5, 8, all the way down the field. I think we're going to have more explosive plays than maybe we've seen in the past. And I go back, and while I'm saying that, what comes into my mind was it touchdown Terry? We caught him with the big bomb, against Florida. And then you look at Will Levis. He hits the bomb. What was it, last year, 2 years? My mind's maybe last year to Dane Key, I think. So the formula is still going to be the same in this Florida game. We've got to have some explosive plays from our quarterback and receivers. And, when you really look at our offense and you start comparing, you look at Dane Key and you look at Brown, who's a speedster, and you've got Robinson, who transferred in for Virginia Tech. You got Dingle, and then you've got a solid quarterback. We have players there that can make explosive plays even against top tier SEC talent. We've just got to we've got to make those plays. We're not going to be able just to grind it out. We've got to have some 3 and 4 play drives to where we just hit one big huge bomb. And I think that's where I said earlier, Stoops kind of allowing our OC to have a little bit of freedom. I think Cohen knows that too, coming into this game, that maybe on early downs or maybe fresh off a turnover is just taking that deep shot. We've got to take some shots. We've got some speed and we got some length out there, and Leary's he's got good enough arm to do it. Just like Mark said, we have to put, even if we don't put I talk about flipping the field all the time. And that is huge in football. Nobody really thinks about field position.
Yep.
But I've seen games where it's spent on one half of the field. You just feel like the ball never crosses the 50. Eventually, that is going to work against you. So sometimes just simply flipping the field with the offense and the other offense having to start with inside their own 30. This is not one of those games to where we can live on one side of the 50. So Mark made a great point. Even if we're not scoring, we have to continually flip that field. And that means no turnovers too. Because when you're in plus territory, Florida's a good enough team. You give them enough chances in plus territory, they're going to score. And then we're not in a great position right now, again, to get in a shooting match. So we have to, I want, everybody says you got to play a near perfect game and all that. We just have to play closer to perfect than Florida. So it don't have to be our perfect. It just has to be closer to perfect than Florida's.
Right. Absolutely. But, of course, we spent a lot of time talking about the Florida game, and one thing that I forgot to do while excuse me, and I do apologize for this, but forgot to bring up as our SNL Concrete Solid Player of the Game from last week while we had Mad Max on here is that's who it actually was after his 2 interceptions. So let me go ahead and bring up the wonderful graphic for that because my wife does a wonderful job.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad that we forgot. He'd won up, but I mean, honestly, I think this is his most prestigious award, getting the SNL Concrete Solid Player of the Game. Even though he got the National Defensive Back of the Week, National Defensive Player of the Week, and the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, he's also grabbing the SNL Concrete Solid Player of the Game.
The most important award that he got out of all of those is the SNL Concrete Solid Player of the Game. Brought to you by, of course, Jason Hill, who has been doing concrete for over 20 years experience, serving in the Eastern Kentucky area, parts of Tennessee, and Virginia as well. Of course, if you guys need any kind of concrete work done, please give him a call. Thank you again for that sponsorship. With 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 2 touchdowns off of those interceptions, the first time ever in Kentucky history, 2 pick six in the same game by Mr. Hairston, who joined our show today.
And I will tell you this, one thing I do like about that stat line is he only had 4 tackles. Because if your DBs are doing most of your tackling, that's telling me your front 4 and your linebackers aren't doing their job. So that tells me when your DBs aren't having many tackles, that's a good sign.
That's a good sign. That is a good sign. But it's
it
stats,
is. That's
so
a good point.
on there. That's I looked up there, and I think he's had like maybe 7 tackles for the whole year. It's like, wow, that's not a lot. And I was like, well, he is defensive back, so I mean, you don't want him to have that many tackles. So with that being said, go ahead.
He's making the tackles. It's a bad thing.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think we've covered pretty much everything. We've gave our points or concerns for this next head-to-head matchup against Florida. I think it's basically keep ETN in check, try to make Mertz have 3rd and long passings, keep our turnovers
uncomfortable in that pocket.
Yep, and have our turnovers win the battle of turnovers, and not have our long 3rd and longs ourselves. I think that's basically the formula to a baked win in the oven. Don't you all agree with me on that?
Yes.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the best formula, though, is score more points.
Score more points and allow less. All right. With that being said,
exactly,
guys, thank you all again. Eddie, thanks for joining in. Anytime you want to join us, you're more than welcome. We appreciate your insight that you gave us. Mark, I'm sorry that you're uglier than I am and I'm the prettier brother, but, thanks for having a good voice. With that, I think we'll go ahead.
2017 Cats. You can go back and watch it. 2017 Cats. We jumped to the top 20.
Oh, we didn't even say the scores. All right, let me flip that. We can at least do that. So the Edster said 20-17.
Cats.
Mark, what you got? Of course,
I'm going to say 24-21.
24-21. And old Dad, I'm going 28-17 Cats and a defensive score.
I like it.
It's going to be close, but I think defense is going to score on either a fumble, sack, pickup, touchdown, or a late in the 4th quarter interception, pick 6. And that's what's going to separate the score. It looks like we got a comment, Mark. I don't know what it says here. Oh,
Stephen Johnson,
we got another one.
Predicting 24-17.
I'm going to write it down, Stephen.
Johnny Lee Turner, 78-11, Kentucky winning.
I
would love it. I'm not going to lie. I would love it.
Bring the air raid horn back, Johnny.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I would love that.
All right. So, Eddie, I know you do a lot of social media. That's definitely for your son and different things on there. Where can people find you on social media?
I mean, what do you mean? Like, just type
Mark,
in Eddie Creech. I don't know. I mean,
Mark, where can people find you at first? Then we'll go to Eddie.
You can find me on Twitter, X, mlawson15. You can find he got me there. You can find me on Instagram at Big Daddy Lawson. I can't.
Eddie Creech, he says.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even. I think on Twitter, mine's at Deep Dark Hills or something. Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what my Instagram is.
I just
really
love
don't.
the fact what you said. Just type in Eddie Creech.
Yeah,
Eddie Creech. And he did the hands too. He's like,
that's what I usually do when I'm looking for somebody. I wasn't being a smart aleck. I really didn't know
Well,
what.
and that's kind of how I've always been. People know who we are. Like, if you want to find us, find us. We're easy
Yeah,
to find.
I mean, what I meant was not necessarily my name. Just like if I'm looking up players, for example, when we're scouting AAU teams, I find out the player's name and I just type it in. Then it'll usually, I would navigate through and I can find them. I don't know people by their handles and stuff.
okay. It's okay. Next time we'll do a lot better on this. But here's Robbie, Eddie Creech on Facebook. But anyways, as far as for us as Cats Chat, you can actually go to Linktree and / Cats Chat Pod and find all of our social medias on there. It gives you all the links to everything that we have. For myself, MD Lawson 00 is everything on social media platforms. That's X, Instagram, Twitter, which is X, and then even TikTok as well. But guys, thank you all so much for joining this episode. It's been fun. It's been a lot.
It has been fun.
Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue. And as we always say, guys, there's 3 things most important in the world: love God, love others, and love Kentucky sports.
Amen.
God bless.